and Spirit was like, showed me this image of like this really big wooden boat that could fit 50 people on it, but it's full of holes.
Mm.
And so I interpret that like that feels like I'm on a leaky boat, and Spirit's like, you have the boat. How can I give you your $200 million empire, baby girl, if you got holes all up in this boat?
Hello, everyone. My name is Ona, and this is Wealthy Weirdos, the podcast where we talk about how the weirdos, the outcasts, those who think differently and move differently through the world come into their wealthiest timeline doing what they love. Hello. Okay, today's a really special episode because I am here with Danielle Green, aka the Alchemy Fairy. She is an energetic performance coach for teams and individuals, really like helping people unlock their energy, unlock their potential, really helping them complete what they need to complete efficiently, but also whimsically, with joy, enjoying their life, enjoying their work. And so she's just incredibly valuable for teams and seeing those like underlying dynamics. And she's also just so great with individuals of like, okay, what is blocking here? What's in the way so that you can get stuff done that you need to get done. So, hi, Danielle, welcome.
Hey, Ona, thanks for having me.
Yes, I am so excited. I love your hair, your
Thanks, girl.
background, everything. So for those of you watching visually, she looks incredible. Very
Thank you.
colorful.
So sweet.
Yes.
As as always, the curls are curling. You look amazing.
Yes. And so is there anything I left out in terms of like what you do? Anything else you want to say about the work you're here doing in the world?
Yeah, I mean, you did great. It's
That's good.
so we're we're both flowing today. So, yeah, I think it's important to also say like it's whatever makes you happy. So that could be business, that could be
Yeah.
relationships, that could be goals for your household, it could be goals 5, 10 years out. It could be whatever you want to work on or towards.
Mm.
Typically, the bigger the goal is, the further out. You might have multiple energetic blocks towards that goal. So we can work through those. If it's a short-term goal, there might be less blocks. But it's just helping figure out what are your goals? What do you want to accomplish? And then seeing, okay, what are your beliefs around that might be holding you back? Or what
Uh,
other factors might be coming into play?
I love that. Yeah, so what first got you into this? Can you tell me a little bit about just a little bit about your story, whatever you want to share in terms of, why this work for you and for the people you're
Sure.
here to help?
Yeah. So I feel like for most coaches, our first project is ourselves.
Yeah.
And so my first project was me, and I put it in my book that's going to be published soon, How I Got My Shit Together, Gospel of Danielle.
I love
And
that.
basically, I just I knew that I didn't like where my life was going. Not that it was a bad life, but I was just not satisfied with it. And there was like struggle that didn't need to always be there, but it was. There was mindsets and beliefs that I had that were not serving me. They were chains holding me back. And it's like, oh, this is terrible. Like, and so it just kind of woke me up to things that I wanted to course correct in myself. And then I got into this space where other people started believing in what I'm saying, trusting in what I'm saying. Oh my gosh, Danielle, this is great advice. So then I start shifting from advice, friend advice, and kind of like free coaching into more like I could really help people, like as if I can package this as a whole skill, a whole service. So it's kind of taking what I've helped like make course corrections in my life and then sharing it with others in a way that can help them apply it. So it can be inner work if that's the space you're in, or it can be like it's like heavier light inner work. So because some people are not in that space yet on their journey, right? So it's
Yeah.
not to like force you where you don't want to be prematurely. But I noticed with people who came to me and were like, Danielle, I have this problem. And they just bare their soul. They're like, this is what's happening. Can you help me? Do you have any advice? I'm like, well, actually, I do have some advice. if you're open to it. And they're like, yes. And so, like, one of my first case studies on helping and extending this officially to others, it was like a colleague of mine, and he was he was really struggling with his perception showing up for leadership. So they were
Mm,
perceiving him as a doormat, doesn't take initiative, doesn't speak up, doesn't have a backbone. And then they're like, why would we promote you? And so he was having the old mentality that I feel like a lot of people still have, which is I'm one of the most veteran members on the team. I know so much, I do so much. I've been here 8+ years. And so he was just really frustrated looking to grow. And so I said, and so we kind of looked at the energy around it, right? His energy giving to leadership and leadership's energy and perception of him. And that dynamic, like when you're in partnership with other people, how that looks and feels. And if it doesn't feel good, then they're not going to consider you for partnership. And
mm.
so, and I think he also had some cultural energetics that he had to like work through integrating into this work culture, which is, it's really hard for a lot of people.
Yeah, that's so interesting, like talking about especially like being in the work culture, because like so much of what I talk about often is the unconventional people, right? It's like people who don't necessarily like fit the mold of what is expected in school and early in life and then later in these jobs. Like I know for me, I couldn't even do it. Like I just never even worked in corporate at all. Like I just any amount of working for other people was always kind of like freelance in a way-ish. Maybe waiting tables was like the most job thing I had. Um, because yeah, when you're in that environment, like there is kind of a game being played, and you might not fully understand the rules or understand how to navigate that. And so I think there is a little bit of this dance of like always, like whether you're in corporate or even as an entrepreneur, there is this dance happening of like, how can I, be who I really authentically am and like be in my essence and be satisfied and be doing what I really want to be doing. And at the
Yeah.
same time, be winning at this game, like actually being seen, recognized, promoted when I deserve to be promoted, paid for the offers that I know are good if I'm an entrepreneur. And
Right.
how can I like turn this into something that's like practically getting me to where I want to go without like sacrificing who I am, like sacrificing myself in the process. And I think what happens is a lot of people, from what I've noticed, it's almost like they end up sacrificing who they are a little bit
Yeah.
and still not winning. Because and I don't know if this is different in the corporate world. But what I've noticed is that there's always a path where you can kind of go 10 toes down and lean more into who you are and actually leverage that to win this game. Even though it seems like the whole time we've been taught to not do that. When it comes to entrepreneurship, when it comes to leadership, I would guess, even inside of the corporate world, they want to see more of you. They want to see that kind of like initiative, but probably also done in like a calculated way, I would suppose. I don't know. What do you think of all that? Is any of that pinging you?
It's like playing in a box,
Yeah.
right? Honoring the box means you honor the rules that surround the environment that I'm calling the box. But playing in it instead of like sitting in a corner and just being like, let me know when you need me.
Mm.
It's very
Mhm.
different. And so, and it depends on if you just want to keep one position forever, there's no shame in that. If that's your thing, you just want to do that and you want all your mental energy to go to home or outside of work environments, cool. But for him, what he wanted or what he felt like would bring him more fulfillment was to get that promotion, to get that pay raise. He wants, I believe, to grow his family. So there are certain, financial balances you have to find with that, right? And so he's like, I just don't understand. Like, I do everything right. I say everything right. I'm so smart. I work so hard. I have degrees. Like, I just don't know why they have such a block against me, like, why it's not working out. So he's kind of hitting his head against the wall. And for him, speaking about that box, he wasn't really playing in the box. He
Mm,
thought, like, if you just come and get me when you need me, that that's going to be promotion material. And maybe in some jobs or environments, that's enough. Maybe they want someone who's like a baby robot. I don't know. But like for this type of role, it's very politically inclined. So they want to see more. So yeah, it just
mm.
depends. And I feel like that can shift by leadership, but also by position as well, even if you're at the same company.
Right. Yeah, that can always be changing. But yeah, it
Yeah,
definitely speaks to, first of all, it's like a couple of things you're hitting on. First of all, knowing what your actual goals are. Like, what does success mean to you?
right.
And so I think that's important for everybody in corporate or in entrepreneurship. It's like if you're defining success by somebody else's standards and it's not actually what you want, it's going to be an energy suck, right? It's speaking of energetic leaks,
Yeah.
right? But then if you do know what you want and it's not happening, yeah, I like what you're saying about it's like you have to understand the box that you're in. And it's so funny because I'm so very like, screw the box, very like outside of the lines. But at the same time, when I really look at what creates the most success, the most satisfying success, it really is understanding fully like where you are right now. So like what are my current surroundings? Like really taking that in and then yeah, being like a super active participant, saying, okay, so I'm going to play here. And then, you slowly gain more influence or more mobility with that. So yeah, I think that's really interesting. But yeah, I'm curious about your own relationship, I guess, to you know, times that you've navigated, maybe navigated wanting, I don't know if you've ever navigated wanting a promotion or more success or anything like that, or even just navigating your entrepreneurial journey and what that's been like with maybe ways that you think differently and ways that you are not necessarily the norm.
Sure. Yeah, I think that because we are equally the weirdos, right? We're the kooky souls. And honestly, I changed industries in my career 4 times. I taught high school English and reading, but then my ideas were not and they were not valued, right?
Uh-oh.
And like they would tell you a framework, and I'm like, half of this framework is broken. I'm not doing it. They're like, then you're on probation. I'm like, I'm not replicating a broken framework with babies. And I taught high
Okay.
schoolers, but in my heart, they're all my babies.
They're babies, yeah.
Yeah. And so, so they didn't like me for that. And so I was like, okay, not for me. And then I was like, maybe if I get to go to the grown-ups in the higher education, maybe that would be better. So then I was in higher education, like a following, what was it, 3 years, and shifting around from there. And so they didn't value me. I always found the problem because I'm like, we can fix it, guys. I'm like a Bob the Builder trying to fix things over here, like just like let me do it, you know? And they're like, stop it. They were like, because in their mind, the way they had control, and this is not all of higher education. This was just my personal experience, right? So I don't mean this to come across as everywhere. Because, yeah. And so, but basically, they were like, when you bring up problems, you are the problem. How
Jeez.
dare you bring problems to us? Everything is fine. We will not acknowledge the problems that you bring. You will be ignored. You will be ostracized. You will be cut off. You will never be promoted. We will
Whoa.
blacklist you from all promotions because you are such a thorn in our side. And
Mm.
that was how they treated me, like a freaking pariah. And I'm like, no, but we can fix it. And they're like, nothing needs to be fixed.
Mm.
And I was like, okay, so this is not where I'm meant to be. Thank you so much.
No.
Goodbye. And so, because us as individuals, we need to identify what is for you and what is not for you before you give up a decade, you know?
Yeah, everything you're everything you're describing there too really it made me think of like how brilliant children are often treated, like when kids
Yeah.
come into a household and they're very bright and very sensitive, and then the parents are, I don't know, maybe not.
Matilda.
Yes, Matilda, exactly. It's exactly the story of Matilda.
Yeah.
And I think that that actually is a lot of that's kind of the story of like neurodivergent children coming into this world. And yeah, it is this pattern of like that's not wanted here. Like you're a problem. Like the fact that
Yeah.
you're seeing this in a different way or you're seeing how things could be better or different is seen as a deficiency, is seen as a bad thing. And I just see that so often with brilliant people, and with a lot of the people that work with me. It's like that's a little bit of a pattern because it's so ingrained in our society. But of course, and this is what you come to realize like on your journey, and you've come to realize as you've started helping other people, is that it's a gift. It's like you're brilliant, you're sensitive, like you can see solutions. You can, especially also for the human design people out there. Danielle and I are both projectors,
Yeah.
right? So there is this like natural tendency to understanding systems, seeing how they can operate more efficiently or with more kindness, better, right? Just better overall
Right.
systems. And a lot of when that's not seen and that's not recognized, it can be very hurtful. It's like easy to personalize that because I just think that this happens with so many people out there, even on a subconscious level, that we like personalize that somehow of like maybe I am not wanted. But, and I see this with my mother too, who's also a projector. I feel like she goes into her office job and is just like everything she can bring to the table is just completely devalued. And
They don't
so
want it.
they don't want it. They want her to just like be a workhorse. They want her to just like get data in, like, or whatever it is she does. I don't understand it, but do it as fast as possible and like do it messy. And that's just not her. Like, she likes things to be done well, and she likes to see the overall system and improve it. And that's really not what anyone there is looking for. Um, so anyway, yeah, it just kind of gets me on that track. I don't know if you have any experiences like that throughout your life or anything you want to say on that.
Yeah, it was. I remember specifically like the moment in teaching where I was just like, because we had to do so much data analysis. People don't know this. And so there's so much data analysis, especially when you're helping either AP prep students who are preparing for college, or if you're helping remedial students who are trying to get on level to graduate, which was both of my demographic of learners. And so you have to customize the learning plan. And so when I saw that, like, say, there's different areas of reading comprehension. So there's like, you have comprehension, then you have like, you have, there's like vocabulary is a path to comprehension, right? Because if you don't have the words, then you don't have the understanding. So I would have one class that was, they just couldn't piece it together. So they were lower performers in the area of comprehension. But then I had
Mm.
another class of super high performers in vocabulary. And so then, so I tweaked the curriculum to go with each period of learners based on their skills. And then I was like, and I remember being in the last like 6 to 9 weeks of the year. And they're like, I was like, look, guys, I know this was the plan, and I had it written all on the whiteboard because I'm a planner. And I'm like, but we're not doing this, we're not doing this, we're not doing this. And I had it like by period. It looked like a almost like a curriculum murder board of like what we're doing, what we're not doing, what we're doing, what we're not doing. And they were like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I was like, yeah, because you're going to do well on your exams. We're not going to have problems. We're going to do so amazing. We're going to make a custom fit for you. They're like, why couldn't
Mm.
you do this in the beginning of the year? I was like, because I had to learn you first. I
Yeah.
had to learn and see how are you doing. And you know what? Even though the reviewers, I don't know if it was like the board or whatever, but when I got put on the learning plan remediation, like Danielle doesn't follow the rules, all of my babies were above the county averages in all of their performance. So tell me I'm not doing a good
Wow.
job, but all my babies are good.
Wow. Yeah.
So it's like having to deal with that and then seeing that the county just didn't appreciate it at that time. And I know they're under new leadership now, like where we are, but it's just like if you can't appreciate that all of my kids, if this doesn't talk for itself, that I know what I'm doing, it just woke me up
Mm.
of like not everyone. cares. Even if
Yeah,
you get that goal, they don't care unless you stay in your box, because in that, back to the box
right.
metaphor, right? I have blew the walls out that box. I
Mm.
blew the roof off that box. They
Yes.
hated it. And they're like, how dare you destroy county property of this box? And we don't care that you made it to the finish line through the woods, over the mountains, over across the ravine. We don't care because you blew the walls out the box and you were supposed to stay inside.
Mm. That's so true. Yeah, because so many of us are here to build new boxes, essentially, like build new structures as evolution happens, right? Like as we evolve, as we, create a better world for all of us. I think that so many people don't fit into the boxes because they're supposed to they're part of creating the new. And I think it is just a series of like, okay, it's almost like a balance between like how can I play in like when and how can I play in the box to proceed forward, and when and how do I not do that? Do I explode the box?
Yeah.
Do I like, and I think a lot of that comes back to your values, and like hearing you talk about the kids, it's like that's a value you're unwilling to put down. It's like I'm not gonna do something that isn't good for these kids. And like, so for you, it needed to not be that. You needed to blow up the box and go build somewhere else that would let you build, which now is your own business.
Yes. So in my own business, we don't have to have boxes. We can have fences. We can have tree fences, And
True.
it's like getting to be the alchemy fairy and refocus my energy on people who are showing up to receive and showing up like willing and just like, I need guidance or I need help, or maybe they're just exhausted. Maybe they're just burnt out. And if they hadn't gotten to the burnt out place, then they could be totally fine. But sometimes situations put us in this position where we just get depleted and they just need that extra like help up?
Yeah, yeah, actually, I'd love to talk a little bit more about burnout in general because I feel like it's such a common thing. And I think sometimes, it sneaks up on people. Like, I don't think I've ever been burnt out, so I don't have that like firsthand experience. But sometimes I wonder if I edge myself on it a little bit. And so I'm curious, what is your definition of burnout and like what tends to be the cause of that and how do you tend to bring people out of it?
Yeah, I think you're very good at resting, and that's so
Mhm.
protective against burnt out. That's been my experience is that I wasn't resting enough.
Mm,
So it's like, building a business, being a mom, getting a second master's, having a partnership romantically, trying to build networks and connections and and maintaining friendships and family connections and stuff. So you're giving each person on that interaction web is like a cord connecting you, right? So if you know about cord cutting, if the listeners know about cord cutting, so you build this energetic bond to them of like, I see you, I acknowledge you. We have this, even if you just say hi, even if it's very low effort, low risk, low strain, but then you zing, you have the cord now. And then you create a new cord and a new cord and a new cord and a new cord, new cord, new cord with everyone you talk to or think of, because thoughts are energy as well, or
yeah.
pray. So, like if you pray for people, you're building that energetic connection to them because you're feeding them those good energy, hopefully good, right? Uh, and so, but you're creating those energetic bonds. And so then all of a sudden you have 200 different bonds because you said hi to the cashier, to the grocery clerk, to your mom, to your child, to your partner, to whoever, to the birds, to the sky, whatever. Like you created those bonds, right? And
Mhm.
then, or you're thinking of them. Maybe you worry. Maybe you're one of the warriors. And so then you have all these energetic threads connecting you to your objects of concern. And there's a practice of cord cutting where you can release those bonds with love, not with any negativity, right? So you say, I release you, I call my energy back to me. And you can like mentally visualize the scissors like cutting through string. And that helps, but it's a daily maintenance. So I think a lot of people don't know
Mm.
about that. They don't realize the connections that they've built. So meanwhile, they have thousands of cords from childhood, from adulthood, from all the things from last week, um, that are just kind of like pulling energy away from their core. And so I think that's like a small thing that adds to it. And then a lack of boundaries really compounds it. Where other people might give too much or say yes too fast, or they don't, or they deny themselves like their needs. Because I think there's like layers to burnout. Like when you're giving away everything energetically, when you're giving away your core of your cup that you pour from, but we really shouldn't be pouring from any cup. We
Mm.
should be giving the excess that overflows because we are filling the cup so constantly with love, affection, attention, food as nutrients, not food as emotional coping mechanisms. Like there's healthy ways to refill our cup. Being in sunshine, reading a good book, having a nourishing conversation with a close friend who gets you. These all fill us back up. And so then we have overflow, and it's from the overflow where we should be giving, not the core, but then we don't know that. So we give from the core, and then the next thing we know, we haven't replenished ourselves in decades, and it's bone dry. There's nothing in this cup anymore.
Mm.
And
Mm.
that's the burnout.
Wow. That makes so much sense. I've never heard it described that way with the energy cords, but I love that because it makes so much sense how it can seem like a small thing that day, but it's like you said, it's a compound effect. And it becomes a way of life, I think, for people that feels maybe normal. Like they think this is just kind of how it is, I would imagine. Um, and so shifting out of that, it takes maybe an outside eye. It takes kind of that, like, all right, we actually need to not only cut these cords and call the energy back, but also stop giving from the core and start like pouring in. And I would imagine that there's almost like a buffer period there where maybe it takes a while before the overflow shows up. And I can imagine that, especially for very compassionate people, that that might be kind of difficult because they're wondering, when when is the cup gonna overflow? Because they do want to still give and give from generosity. I feel like I see that a lot with money too, and even though I haven't experienced like a full-on energetic burnout, I think this pattern you're describing shows up for a lot of people, like you said, on different, it's on a spectrum, like there's different
Yeah.
layers of it. And with money, that was one of my like biggest patterns that I realized was making it hard for me to bring in more money, is I was actually like using money to a certain degree to to like smooth over, like I wanted friendships to be easier, like it started young, like even like one of my first relationships I kind of like paid for everything, like I paid I was always kind of like a sugar mama type even as a teenager, I wanted to kind of like pay for dinner or pay for the concert tickets or do these things for others with my money. Because of that, I think probably seeking connection and belonging and but also like wanting to give. And I think it took me a really long time to realize that that's not the same thing as generosity. Like it's actually just not. Um, and to be generous with my money, I had to first like experience a full cup and experience the overflow of that in order for it to actually, and it has a different quality, it has a different energetic quality, that like overflow generosity, as opposed to like, because I would even do it with my clients, especially in the beginning. Well, I'll just add all these things, or we'll go on a trip, or I would host like a private retreat and like add a bunch of stuff to it and incur higher costs and then not profit. And I'm like, wait, why am I doing this? And I realized it was that same pattern. It wasn't actually generosity. And so shifting out of that, noticing, okay, well, what does it mean to not pour from the, even like from a financial standpoint, to not pour from the core, but for it to come from overflow. And I think it's the same with time and energy. Like time, energy, and money are like all very linked.
Yeah. As I'm listening to you describe this, it reminds me of of like consent. It
Mm,
reminds me of generosity. The resonance around generosity for me, my perception is that there's like this, it's the equivalent of like enthusiastic consent. Oh
mm,
my gosh, I would love to do this for you. Please, can we do this?
yeah,
As opposed to like money as a tool to like help keep things smooth or simple or easy,
right.
then that's more of like, okay, I guess I could do this. It's like baby consent.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, I don't mind, but it's slightly I don't want to say begrudging, like putting that on you, but like for me, I know that when I'm like, I guess I could do this, it's kind of like, but I have reluctance
Yeah.
tapping my energy. Like, I don't really want to do this. I wish it was another way. I wish there was a better way, but I don't know the better way at that time. So it's like, I guess I could just take care of this, but then now I'm hurting, you know?
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. I was just having this conversation with another client like a couple of weeks ago where it was just kind of expected from somebody in her life, like a family member in her life, that excess money coming to her, like some of it would just go to them, or like if they knew about it, they'll just say like, oh, I actually need that right now. Like I need some money. And if they know that she has an overflow, but not necessarily an actual genuine overflow for her cup, but just, what that means to different people. It could just be, well, you've got your bills covered and you had a little extra money come in, so like I need it more than you do. And I think this is actually like really common with people's
Yeah.
friends and family members, and it can make becoming wealthier or becoming more successful really daunting because you're like, everyone's just like, I don't know, I'm just going to end up giving it away. And I think, and I hear this a lot with people too, where they're like, well, friendship is more important to me than money. And I always find it really curious when people say that because I'm like, why were they ever at odds? What's going on there? That you have to make that comparison that friendship is more important than money. Because I think 9 times out of 10, when people say that, it's because they're in this pattern of like, well, I would just give it to my friends if they needed it. And it's not that we aren't generous or that we don't do that, but I think it's energetically very leaky when you're doing it from a place of like, I don't want to seem greedy, or I don't want to seem bad, or I guess I'm supposed to do this, or I guess I should do this, is not actually you being a steward of your cup, of like really knowing, hey, now I'm in overflow. So of course I love being generous, right?
Yeah, and it reminds me of a topic that you talk about all the time is like they're basically self-imposing shame
Yeah.
as punishment for succeeding. So then energetically around that, you create this like self-flagellation, self-inner abuse around you're so greedy, you should be giving, you should supplicate to people who could also be doing well for themselves. They also need to be trying. Like, I'm not saying don't help your friends, but there needs to be like an agreement of like, I'll pay it back, or just this once, or I'm working on things and I will thank you in future. Not that it has to be a tit for tat, but there needs to be balance where it's
Yeah.
not abuse. Because to me, that sounds very heavy of abuse.
Yeah, and I feel like it's really actually very common, I mean, sometimes it's a spectrum, right? So sometimes it's really obvious, like people's family members just sort of expecting the money
Yeah.
from you, right? And especially if that ever happened as a kid. Like I have a friend who, I think it's a core memory of hers where her mom just came into her bedroom and like broke open her piggy bank and was like, "Oh yeah, I needed that." It's like the kind of effect that that has on you. It's like she doesn't like to save money. Of course she doesn't like to save. Who would want to save money after an experience like that? You end up just wanting to get rid of it so that you don't have to deal with that, so you don't have to hold it. And I think that yeah, it happens in like smaller ways too, even with I'm thinking of like another example of a client of mine who she was in Bali, and the person like giving her a massage, like the massages are just so much cheaper there. And of course, like she wants to give a generous tip. But then she's like, well, I'm just gonna pay like triple, basically. That was like her initial instinct, was to pay like triple what the person had uh you know charged, which is fine. Like there's nothing wrong with that. But then it's like, well, we have to look at, well, where is this coming from energetically?
Yeah.
because there's actually like a lot of judgment at play. Like you're coming in and saying like this isn't enough money, like making judgments about what she's got going on or her financial situation or the fact that she's decided to charge this, and it's like you just feel weird, like you feel uncomfortable, you don't want to seem greedy, whatever else is going on there. It's a very different thing than just like I'm actually like divinely inspired right now and I actually want to give triple as opposed to just like a normal generous tip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely something to hit the pause button on and be
Yeah.
like, what's driving this feeling, this compulsion to overgive if it's not coming from that. I don't want to say genuine because she sounds genuine, but she just sounds confused or conflicted around it, right?
Yeah, it's all about where it's coming from energetically because a lot of time like how I really see it is that if it's happening there, it's happening other places. So it's not really about whether or not you do it in this one instance, but it's like it's probably happening with your energy as well and your time as well, probably not just your money. So if there is this pattern of like, I'm not, it's not okay for me to hold this, like I need to give this to somebody else, then that ultimately is going to be a wobble in your leadership and a wobble in your ability to expand, as opposed to I know who I am. Maybe some people think I'm greedy sometimes. I have no idea. I have no control over that. But I know when my cup is full and the overflow just happens. Like the overflow is natural and I can trust that.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I'm hearing you talk about her experience, it's reminding me of this week I had a situation where it was coming up where there were multiple checks, right, coming through. So the abundance is flowing. We're grateful, we are receiving, they are here. But then what ends up happening is like six things get stacked against this scenario where I'm like, I have to disconnect myself from it and just say, what is spirit trying to teach me right now?
Mm.
What is coming to light so intensely in this like pressurized container moment because they're not accessible and they're not getting processed and I'm hitting all these delays and walls, system errors, process errors, gaps between banks, so many gaps where I've made phone calls, I've had face-to-face meetings with these people trying to resolve it, and it's just like more and more and more and more and more. And I'm just like, this feels bigger than me. This feels bigger than me. What am I supposed to learn? So I'm like, okay, talking to spirit. And I'm just like, help me like transmute this in my brain so I can like get what we're doing here. And spirit was like, showed me this image of like this really big wooden boat that could fit 50 people on it, but it's full of holes.
Mm.
And so I interpret that like that feels like I'm on a leaky boat. And Spirit's like, you have the boat. How can I give you your $200 million empire, baby girl, if you got holes all up in this boat?
Right.
If I gave you what the boat could hold, it would sink
Mm.
because you need to fine tune these holes, fill them up, and then you will have the passion, the volume, the amounts, the quantities, the overflowing abundance. We're trying to give it to you, but you first need to see these holes exist, plug the holes, and then we will get them to you. But it is so much easier to track two checks than it is, say, 25 checks where they just go missing and you're like, what in the heck is going on? Right?
Ah, yeah, I love that. That is like I mean, that's exactly it. Like I've actually come to realize that it's so important to appreciate the contraction and appreciate the times when there isn't like a lot coming in because always it's revealing some kind of hole in the boat of and I sometimes will even look at that as like part of yourself doesn't want it yet, of course, because the boat would sink. And so and some of that can sometimes be belief and illusion, but a lot of times it's actually just like boots on the ground, like rolling up your sleeves, really practical stuff to like plug these holes so that
Yeah.
more can come in. You know, I I think about too, where I've been at financially. I've spent so much of my life being kind of like I'm very roller coastery. Like I've built it that way. I'm like, money comes in and then I spend it all. And then I make more money and then I spend it all. And I'm like kind of extreme in that way. And so of course that showed up in my business, like right away. I focused completely on making money and then spent it all. And I just been like, well, I'll make up some more and then spend it all. And I'm like, hold on a second. I can't actually grow sustainably like this. I can't actually, you know, I have to
Expand from
plug,
here.
I can't expand. Yeah.
Yeah.
It just like maybe there's some expansion, but like it's ultimately the same because then the contraction is like just as big and it's like, and now I'm at zero again. So, okay, let's say I get to this and then I'm at zero again. It's not actually, yeah, it's not really going to work. And then if there were a massive influx, then the like boomerang effect would be just as massive because I'm in that pattern, right? And that's not actually what I want. There's a benefit to playing small. When you have a leaky boat, you don't want too many people on that boat. You want to like get some driftwood and hang on with just a couple people and make that work. But that's not what we're here to do. We're here to like really build something big. And your story reminded me of so I got in a car crash in August and there's meant to be this settlement money coming to me and it's actually like much higher than it was supposed to be. It's going to be a really large amount of money. And I'm like, wait, why isn't it just coming right now?
Right.
And, it's like, because it's delays or whatever. I don't know when it's going to get here. But I realized also in that moment how many holes were in my boat, like just how leaky it was. And if this huge influx of money came in, my leadership wasn't actually on point to like steward that appropriately. And I thought about, it's funny that this has happened twice with car crashes, but back when I was 14, I was in a car crash. I was on the passenger side and I was the only one who got hurt. So I got settlement money back then too. But because I was 14 years old, I had to go to a judge to like get it approved every time I wanted to take the money out. So I couldn't just like give it to my parents. I couldn't just like do whatever with it. I actually had to, but I think it was actually a blessing because really it's like if there was no judge involved and I just like had that money at age 14, I probably would have just given it to my parents to get a new car, right? But, because I live there, like I don't know, that's what would have probably happened. But I didn't do that. Instead, it had to be for like my enrichment. It had to be for something that was like positive for me. So every time I went, and she was great. So I now refer to her as the benevolent judge. She was the benevolent judge because every time I would go in, it would be like, yes, get a laptop. Like, yes, go to summer camp. Yes, go on this school trip to Europe. And I had, even despite my parents having financial trouble at that age, they had been like laid off, they had some issues financially. I had money. Me, for my enrichment and growth, I had money. I got to go to Europe. I got to go to camp. I got to do all the things. And I look back on that and I'm like, yeah, that was the yang energy. That was the container, that benevolent judge dictating where this money could and could not go. But I'm 33 now. So if I get this massive influx of money, I have to be the benevolent judge. Like I have to steward it really well for my enrichment and trust that my enrichment is what inevitably overflows to help others. And if I take this in with a leaky boat, ship's just gonna sink. It's not like, sure, I can give some money to different people and have some fun, but like it's actually not gonna help other people nearly as much as like it being fully focused on my enrichment.
Yeah. What an amazing story. I I just think how beautiful it was you had the judge to model that for you.
Yeah.
I think how many of our lives would be different if we had a benevolent judge figure in it that could help teach us about like lovingly no, because this is not the purpose for this.
Right.
And setting like healthy protection boundaries against frivolity or excess or just maybe not so well thought out. I mean, I don't know the other options you petition for, but the ones that got approved sound great. But I just think of me as a 14-year-old. She would have been like, I just want to buy like sparkly things and I want all the shiny stuff, like I would have definitely given in to a 14-year-old's compassion for frivolity, like everything would have had a sparkle to it. The car, the house, the nails, the outfits, everything bedazzled. I don't know. So I just think of like how amazing you had that modeled. Meanwhile, like my parents, they filed bankruptcy like two, three times. Like they're a mess. I cannot look to them for any guidance. I'm like, I'm having to secondhand learn through like honestly, the SBA, the Small Business Association. I think I'm saying that right. They have free counselors for business owners and entrepreneurs. And he was my benevolent judge. He
Mm.
didn't give me money, but but he gave me guidance that I needed, like this wizened old guru. And not that he's old, I'm sure he's still in his prime, but he just had so much rich life experience. Like that's the only person I've gone to where I knew he's ran four companies. He had 2 to 500 employees. He's in retirement. He's living life, like doing his thing. And he could guide me from a hilltop perspective of this is what you want to do, this is what you don't want to do.
Mm.
And like one of the biggest pieces of advice I learned from my equivalent, the only equivalent I can think of, is that he said, you have to have all of your personal finances tightened up. If you don't have personal tightened up, you're not able to run a business.
Mm. Yeah, at least not a nourishing one.
Not for long.
Yeah, not for
You can
long.
run it into the ground.
Yeah, you could run into which a lot of people do, actually. It's kind of wild. I feel like a lot of people don't realize how common that is, because it can look really flashy from the outside and be a literally a sinking ship, literally a ship full of holes, and you don't always know it right away from the outside, right? So
Yeah,
that's so interesting. I feel like this is what you do. That's like a large part of what you do as an energetic performance coach is you plug up all those holes, you kind of
yeah,
get rid of what is drawing from your energy and this habit of poking holes in your own ship, which is really what a lot of people are doing, and plugging all of that up so that people have more capacity, which, yeah, like I said, I really see all of those things as being linked. Like they're going to have more energy, they're going to have more time, and they're going to have more money because it all comes back to that same pattern of like, am I overgiving? Am I losing myself in this process?
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think about healing as a plant. So,
Mm,
like, for those who might be earlier days on their journey, I think about like when we're healing, we're kind of going into this, and I'm a plant mom, so you can hear this. So, we kind of go into this like forest setting of our mind where our memories are, right? And so, there, say trauma or pain, it lives in this plant that has like a root system in our subconscious and our psyche and our energy, right? And so, there's therapy healing, which I did for 13 years, so I'm not knocking this. But therapy, like cognitive behavioral, where you're talking, is like going through this area of your mind, pruning the pain.
mm,
You cut the leaves off, you shrink the pain. So it makes it feel like, oh, we're doing so good, it's more manageable. You identified that a plant exists. You identified that maybe you don't want that plant to be from here to the moon. You want to knock it back down to manageable size. But the gap that I found, at least in my own 13 years across six different therapists with time, is that none of them go to the root.
mm,
And that's what I do differently, is that we go to the very root where
mm,
that seed sprouted down. I
mm.
don't care about the leaves. The leaves are real cute. You can print them all you want, but if you don't get that root, any plant parent knows, or anybody who's ever owned a garden, they will always come back.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, it's not even just like that surface level of like, okay, let's get this plugged up and working. It's like, no, this is permanent. Like we're
Yeah.
taking this out at the root and this is going to restructure your reality, really, because that is no longer seated in there and growing back again.
Yeah.
Root
And so
work. I love that.
it's amazing. And what I found was when you uproot so much pain, trauma, memory experiences, those roots, they don't need your water anymore. They don't need your time, attention, and care to prune them anymore. So all that energy, all of that water goes back into you once you've integrated it, once you've rested, and your frequency updates to say, I have done deep shadow-based healing. I've connected so much and stopped resisting, like, yes, this happened. I accept that this has happened. And like not fighting with yourself internally every single waking moment also brings back so much of your energy. And so, like, I was chatting with a girlfriend the other day. She's like, Danielle, and I love her. She's amazing. She's like, you make me feel so bad about myself because you do so much. And I'm just like, you're so silly. And she's saying this playfully, so don't be alarmed, right? She's incredible in her own right. But she was just like, how do you find the energy? I'm exhausted hearing you say all the things that you're balancing. And I said, honestly, it's all this healing. I
Hmm.
didn't have this much energy through even 2 years ago.
Wow.
But because I've been able to root up and pull out all this pain and like see it, name it, know it, and let it go, I have so much time for all my focus that's over here that's beautiful and flourishing and growing and healing and like being able to share that with others and clients and showing them the pathway to happiness, the pathway to finding whatever's going to bring them joy and fulfillment and them feeling relieved as well is it's like it's just beautiful. So it's like that also intrinsically gives me more energy because I'm like, they get it, they see it, they have it. I have bestowed upon them the greatest wisdoms I have found in life to this point, and now they can steward the wisdom like to their own greatness. Like it's amazing.
Oh my God, I love that. That's incredible. And it is like truly an overflowing cup. Like that's how that happens because then just as the depreciation of your energy was compounding, now this is what's compounding. You constantly being filled. And so it doesn't even require, I imagine that the rooting out process there's a little probably a little bit of energy up front. But then you have this compounding experience of like your energy is just being filled and filled and filled. So that's just so unbelievably beautiful. Can you tell us like how can the listeners find you, work with you? Like what do you have going on?
Yeah, I am doing free energy audits right now. I have a few slots each week, and the idea is we get on a call. I ask a couple questions just to kind of understand your current situation, what you want to work on or work towards. You can find me on LinkedIn under Danielle Green. You can find me, I have a Facebook business page, The Alchemy Fairy. So you can find me there, or you can email me, Danielle Green at thealchemyfairy.com, like you see in my little background. Fairy with an A-I-R, which BT dubs, how about when I branded the other fairies, the F-A-E-R, they highly scrutinized my I. They're like, why did we choose an I, Danielle? You know, that's not real lore. I'm like, oh, and the fairies come out of the woodwork, baby, to challenge me on fairy lore, to question my commitment to the lore. Incredible. But yeah, you can find me. And yeah, we'll do an any energy audit to start, just so I can understand where things are and take it from there. If it feels like a good fit, then we'll look at some other options together, whatever fits budget, time, and space for those commitments you want to bring into reality faster. And this none of this is to say you couldn't do it on your own. Of course you could. Everybody's smart and talented and can leverage their own gifts. But this is to help save the time, show you the wisdom that took me years and years and years of so much, and help bring that to you in the next few months to a year, depending on, what the goals are.
Yeah, amazing. Oh my gosh. Okay, great. I'm gonna link all of that in the description so that people can find you and get their free energy audit because it's also like, why not? Come in, get
Yeah.
the free energy audit. Maybe you guys can identify what some of those holes are, and then decide if they want to go and like really root it out. I like how we're playing with a bow and a plant. It
It's
starts
work.
it starts with plugging up holes with the boat, and then we're gonna go root out the plant in the longer term work. So I love that so much. Thank you so much for being here, Danielle. This was such a fun conversation. I'm so glad you're able to come on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. This is such a beautiful co-creation space.
Yeah, so much fun. I know I need to bring more and more people into this world and just keep it going. And more fairies too. I've noticed there's a lot of fairies in my life. And with the alchemy fairy, another one of my clients is a fairy. I got fairy friends. I'm like, I think the fairies are gathering here.
Yes. You have a fairy circle.
I have a fairy circle. We need to get all of the fairies on here. Okay, great. Well, thank you so much, and we'll see y'all next week.
Thanks, everyone.